Engineer Sanusi secures victory against Bayero as appeal court overturns Justice Liman's verdict. Group commends return of Dizani's $52.88 million recovered assets, urges transparency and accountability in the management. And later on the show, NLC seeks dialogue over tax reform bills as President Islam's Bauchi governor. Today on the program, I will be hanging out with Adewale Adeoye and Asuko James. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to Journalist Hangout.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Journalist Hangout starts now. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program. The currency of any country is a symbol of its national pride and value. Any attempt to demean or misuse it calls for swift intervention to uphold its integrity. To this end, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has summoned the Okoya brothers for questioning after a viral video showing them abusing the naira. This came after the spokesperson for the Nigeria Police, Muyiwa Adejobi, announced that the officer seen in the video has been arrested and detained. Gentlemen, there have been, that's the video on the screen, there have been diverse reactions to this video, even before the Okoya brothers were summoned. Some Nigerians have said there was no reason for the police officer to have been summoned or detained. There was little or nothing he could have done at that moment. Asukwo.
Well, first the police had to, if you notice, the police are trying to, bring back their image, because their image has really gone down. So I think what they first did was, let's just attack the situation. This is our own person. Let's make sure we, deal with our person first. So whatever anybody will say, it is the police trying to, clean his house. Let me use that word. So they are doing that first. But the major thing police will have to do now is to also look at the kind of jobs that they allow their officers to do when they send them on all these to private, individuals. What kind? Are they securing them? Are they using them as houseboys or housegirls? I know there are so many police officers. There are so many pictures that we see. Sometimes you see the female police officers carrying madam's bag.
Male officers.
Okay, the male officers will be doing the same thing. And I know there was a time, I think it was during the last administration, they were trying to sanitize the police force in such a way that police officers would not be made to be doing that. You can get private security firms to be doing this kind of jobs, and it will raise eyebrows. Police officers should be seen as an institution whereby anybody would like to even join. And I think that is where this IG is trying to, what it's trying to do now, trying to bring professionalism into it. But first, for things like this, Nigerians will not like to see things like this, whereby a police officer will be carrying money for an individual, a civilian, let me use that word, for a civilian, and police officers carrying bags for people. It shouldn't be, we shouldn't get to that point where, we would demean that force.
All right. Adeoye, let me come to you. In this part of the world where we see a police officer on guard duty, open car doors, carrying bags, just like Asuko said, it boils down to the fact that the first PRO has come out severally to say this is not the duty of a police officer. Is it possible that the leadership of the police tells the public something else, but gives its officers a different directive?
Well, first of all, I think we all need to condemn the unruly display of Nigerian currency. It's a mark of arrogance, an assault on the pride of Nigeria, and a reckless display of wealth. And also it shows contempt for the sovereign masses, that even though a lot of people are sovereign, they cannot afford to eat, no jobs. Some individuals who have the opportunity to have access to free money, they are tempting them, they are threatening them, they are contemptuous of the millions of Nigerians who don't have access to. So I think it shows that they are quite insensitive to the plight of Nigerians. And it may also draw one to a wrong or right conclusion, that do these people really work hard for this money? Because if you, it may be right, it may be wrong, but if you really work hard for money, will a university lecturer that will work overnight, all night, or a journalist working for almost 24 hours, then you have money, will be displaying it anyhow, you know. So I think it's an acculturated attitude that I think, you know, it's not a good thing about our country. On the policemen, I think generally there is a wrong architecture when we are talking about security system in Nigeria. Our security men, they see security as protection of individuals, rich men, you know, whereas security should be about the protection of the society. It should be there about the protection of the country. That is why you see individuals, local government chairmen, members of the House of Assembly, they go with private policemen, even their wives, even some with their, you know, their children. And by the time you look at the fact that hundreds of thousands of people are allocated to individuals, how many policemen will be left to govern me and you? You know, compared with what we have in other countries where policemen are made to patrol the streets, to protect the community, not to single out an individual for protection. So I think it's not just about making statements that, you know, because several times IGs in the past have withdrawn policemen. They will make, you know, the noise and all that. But after some time, you discover that, you know, children of rich men see a policeman guiding them. And if you are guiding an individual, policemen are also justly to be given such position because there are extra funds for you apart from your salary, you know. And when people are occupying that position, they have very little respect for the ordinary man. They believe that because I'm guiding a rich man, he will protect me and I can do anything and get at it, agree with it. So I think it's not the best way to define the, you know, policing architecture in Nigeria. There are so many communities. My own community has no police station. And we have about 5 communities in that area. And my community has over 10,000 people. No policemen, no police post, you know. So, but individual, just one individual, a student that is from, you know, the son of a senator, they even have about 2 policemen.
But in this situation, was there anything that police officer could have done? Because he's been detained, he's been arrested to be disciplined. Was there anything he could have done in that situation, at that party? You
see, there is what we call a conscientious objector. If you are given an assignment, a role, you must also be conscious of the ethics of your profession. And that's why policemen who are, you know, really professional, they know that when it comes to domestic matters, they are very, very careful. But at the end of the day, if you are arrested, you are going to, you know, you are going to be prosecuted, and the rich man may not be in a position to help you. So if they are given dirty jobs to do, you know, they must learn from this experience that, look, they will be held responsible for not living up to their professional, you know, expectations. So
I asked that question, Asuko. I want your perspective also. I asked that question because, I mean, first PRO tweet that I read, a man on guard duty who leaves the beat and follows a principle on escort is on his own. Because if anything happens to him on the trip, he will still be tried posthumously. The Gaza company applied for men on guard and it was given, not the sons. So leaving beat is a great offense in the police. That one alone can cost him his job, let alone other obvious misdeeds. And I'm sure any lawyer willing to take up his case will need to go to the mountains. So is there a possibility that the leadership of the police tells these officers something different and tells the public something different? It's very possible.
No, but if there are ethics, because there are ethics to every profession. So if the ethics of the profession is for you to just go there
but this is not I'm sure this is not the first time.
So at least they are going to make one person scapegoat. You understand? So that others can learn.
But how fair is that?
No, it depends. You know, it depends. So there is nothing that is fair in life. So as it goes now, you know, the ethics says secure. The ethics did not say go there and carry money. When you know that it is the police, that they are the ones, the custodians, the ones that are supposed to implement the law. The law was made. Who implements it? It is the police.
Okay.
Because, for instance, if there's any crime now, the person who arrests a criminal, okay, or a suspect is the police. So first, there's a law that says do not deface, you know, the naira, which is the CBN Act. It's saying they do not deface the naira. And so he himself is supposed to know that, one, there's a law that says the naira should not be debased in any way. So he's supposed to tell whoever he's guiding and say, Oga, I cannot do this, I cannot carry this money. But be that as it may, Jumoke, before we move, we need I think the government should not just sweep this under the carpet.
Absolutely.
We have seen chief priests being prosecuted. We have seen Bobrisky being prosecuted. Nobody should, people need to learn how, need to respect our naira. Anything that concerns the national pride, we should respect it. There was a video I was seeing, I think, last week, where some people were throwing bills of naira, and they were playing ball with it. I don't know where those guys are, I don't know which particular region, but they are playing ball with it. If you are working hard, just like Adio said, I'm not sure you will be doing naira anyhow.
And I'm sure Nigerians are waiting to see what becomes of this case.
Yes.
I mean, so that when
they have invited them, they are going there tomorrow. So we want to see how the EFCC will, take all this case, whether they will also face the law, because the law is the law.
Absolutely.
No friendship.
Respect of anyone.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on. Punctuality is the backbone of air travel, and any disruption can breed frustration among passengers. Tension flared on Ibom Air flight when a woman accused of causing the cancellation of an Uyo to Abuja flight due to her unruly behavior narrowly escaped a mob attack by angry passengers. And according to the spokesman of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Michael Achimugu, passengers were earlier informed that heavy luggage would not be checked in due to weight restrictions. The female passenger, however, insisted on the luggage after signing an indemnity form to have them at a later time. Adeoye, I'm sure you saw that video.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, let me first of all say that because we are discussing Ibom Air, it's always good to discuss these things in context. Ibom Airline, Ibom Air is one of the best in the country. I think it was launched in 2019 on June 7. And I'm always impressed. They keep to time. They are very orderly. The crew are very decent people.
Thank you for praising.
Yeah, and I think it reminds us of the fact that, look, when people are saying that, oh, states cannot manage corporations, sell up everything, Ibom Air is a very good example.
Yes.
That states can actually manage, capital. I've taken it a lot of times, and I'm impressed by so many things. They will speak the local language and also speak English. And compare with private airlines, many private airlines, I really love Ibom. So I think this one is not a reflection of the image of that, but I think what happened, we must first of all agree that airlines these days, unfortunately, I've not seen Ibom Air delayed most of the time when they're always very punctual. I said that we will not get the flight because there are so many people trying to get Ibom Air. But I think that our airlines are notorious for delaying largely, passengers, and with very dire consequences. Sometimes you want to fly by 5 o'clock, we are still at the airport by 9. Sometimes your flights are cancelled and no consequences. And sometimes when you miss your flight, you pay. If you miss your flight, you want to go maybe tomorrow, they will charge you. Sometimes you miss your flight, no place to sleep. You sleep at the airport. So the government has been nonchalant to this issue. And I think that we have now seen that this can lead to a lot of things. This is just what has happened in this case. But I believe that, two wrongs do not make a right. Nigerians are unnecessarily militarized, maybe because of years of military rule. We are not really showing good culture. Because we are unruly, we don't, little things we become aggressive. So you say a lot of, even when you are driving on the streets, people have a kind of terrorist, it's violent instinct. They want to, I think it's a common thing in Nigeria, because if you have challenges with your airline, there are decent ways of approaching this issue. Even when your flights are, delayed, you don't need to resort to all sorts of things. And also the mob, that really want to lynch him. That's extreme. For what? You can't take the law into your hand, no matter what this lady may have done. So I think both sides, it reflects the kind of mindset that we have in Nigeria. People are not patient, people are unruly, people are uncultured, people are violent. Little things they want to go violent. So on both sides, I think what happened, quite unfortunate.
All right, Asoko, for me, so many things to unpack in that video. So let's dissect the issues. First, is this on Ibom Air? Because you saw the enforcement agencies who were treating her with so much decorum at the detriment of others who missed their flights. What exactly would you
no, because that is NCA, you know, those who are managing the airport, they are trying to make sure that people don't take laws into their hands. You know, they even saved her, because I know from the account that I read, sign. Why sign?
Because according to the story I read, she had experienced something of this nature where her luggages did not get to her.
Was it Ibom Air?
I think it was.
Was it Ibom Air?
I think it was.
No, because the thing is, if it was Ibom Air, she should have reported and said, oh, because even the pilot, you know, agreed that, okay, I was going. But when you are carrying the whole of Akwa Ibom and you want to put it in a plane, that had just 89 people, you know, they told her, for her to have signed and said, okay, I have a luggage. And then the luggage was even unsuitable. Because sometimes, you know, they usually move some, you know, luggage on these, you know, ISO, you know, but it was so she should have just sat down and then wait. If it doesn't come, that is. You have to be patient. Even if you are on the queue, because most Nigerians will want everything, we want to even shun the queue for us to go to the front. Let us just have that a little bit of patience. I think if we do that, I'm saying this because for me that have gone outside Nigeria for it, sometimes when we go out, when they say queue up, we all do as if we are young babies. We do not argue, we do not shout. Even when somebody is shouting, we that are Nigerians, we humble ourselves because we know that in Nigeria we shout. But here, coming to see a white man shouting, we ourselves, we humble ourselves. So I think what we should do, let us always have that element of patience anywhere we go to. Take this NCCA that we have now. They are being very, very proactive, if you notice. Yes. Immediately anything happens, you see Mr. Michael coming out to talk about it, you know. And thankfully, they were out there for them to save the situation. If not, we would have had a major crisis in our hands. So I hope, and I want to see how the outcome will be. And I've not heard what happened the next day, you know, because I know the airport is a sunset airport. So when once it's 6:30 or 7 p.m.
That was why some Nigerians had said Ibom Air should have deported her at the moment she started making, instead of before that situation escalated to that point.
Just tell her, okay, come, maybe you go to the next flight or something, then the flight will go, then they will look for another airline for her or whatever, or tell her, okay, maybe the next day you can fly with your luggage if she really desperately wanted the luggage to go with her. You know, so there would have been ways for them to have handled this rather than delaying people and allowing the pilot to have cancelled the flight.
Is this some sort of lessons for other airlines? And would you say this is an evidence of mistrust, Nigerians not trusting government structure, or however?
Well, I think there is trust deficit everywhere, everywhere, you know. Even among parents and their children these days, you know. I hope it's a lesson, because most of the times our people don't learn anything. Today, this thing that happened may still happen, just today. So unless people say there's no country that can reform itself, the responsibility of those in power is to reform the system. I was traveling to Abuja recently, and I discovered that there was, people were waiting at a particular airport, no place to sit. And I was wondering that, look, pregnant women are here, children are here, old people, people that are, living with disability, no seat. I sent a message to the Minister of Aviation, Kayam. No reply. Of course, it's always very busy, but that's the little I could have done at that moment. And then you see our airlines. It's only in Nigeria I noticed this. Where people are traveling from Abuja, Kano, in other countries, priority first to pregnant women, nursing mothers, children, people with disability. We don't do that in our airports.
Even soldiers.
Even soldiers. Yes, soldiers. They give them preference. Somebody is 85 years old. Is ill, anything can happen. You give him preference, let him go and board. We don't do that here. Every time, every day, you see what happens. So, our airlines they will not learn unless there is institutional framework to compel them through sanctions and the position of fines. And that's the responsibility of the federal government and all the other authorities that are involved to do this.
All right. Before we move on, Asukwo, aviation has zero tolerance for unruly behavior. Do you think she should be blacklisted, or what do you hope to see come out of this situation?
I don't know what the full regulation will be. That is where the NCAA will come. She could be blacklisted, stopped from flying maybe for a couple of months or years, but that will be dependent on what the rules say, because she can also sue the NCAA for stopping her from moving. Okay, because again she can come out and say, "Oh, my freedom of movement is also being violated." So if it depends on how NCAA will look at it. If they need to stop her from flying for a couple of months, so that she can learn her lesson, fine. Yeah, but all in all, she has paid, but they can also refund her money and tell her to use bus, to go, to move from Akwa Ibom to Abuja that she wanted to go to. Yeah, so it depends. So it depends on what the law says. If the law says that she could be blacklisted and not put her as a fly risk, in quotes, okay? If they put her as a fly risk, then she won't fly within Nigeria. And even outside, because I know, there's a collaboration between Nigeria and other countries. So she has put herself in a very, very difficult situation. So I don't know how she wants to get away from it.
I know you talked about
it's a very, very difficult situation
reform of the aviation sector. How would you evaluate how Festus Keyamo has kicked off?
Well, I think he has done pretty well. I will not score him, because I am not President Bola Tinubu, I will not score him. But so far, so good. The few times I have, flown within Nigeria, I've not had flight delays that much, And when there are delays, I know there was a time one of the airlines kept me for almost 2 hours, and I got to Abuja very late. That same airline, when I was coming back, I got home back to Lagos very late. But they were communicating on why the delay. Unlike before. Before, they will not even tell you anything. They will not. The only thing you just hear is operational reasons. They will not say anything. But this one, they kept coming, saying because of they had to move this, they have to do this, and they gave us refreshments. Both when I was going and when I was coming. You understand? At least. And they even told us that if it gets to a particular time and they can't fly, that they are going to take us to the hotel, which makes a lot of sense. It means that somebody is doing his work. You understand? So that level, I would say that Keyamo is making effort. It's, the old days are trying to be moved away, and we are trying to see something new. Right. We are almost getting there, but we are not there yet. So Nigerians want to see an aviation industry whereby when they get to the airport, they should be able to, when they say 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock is 6. 12 o'clock is 12. There are some people, when I tell them, if you want to go to Abuja, take the first flight. They dread going to Abuja or buying ticket that is around 12 because they don't know what will happen. I think if the aviation, Minister of Aviation is hearing this, people dread 12 p.m. or 1 or 11 or 12 going to Abuja or coming to Lagos because they feel that they will cancel or they will delay. You understand? So the minister should work on that. Anybody leaving Lagos, take morning flight because it won't delay. And the rush is always there. It's very expensive, but at least they won't delay you. You know, so the minister should work on that.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to other issues. The legal battle regarding the reappointment of Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, has taken another turn. In a significant turn of events, Emir Sanusi secured a victory against Aminu Adubairu as the Court of Appeal overturned Justice Liban's earlier verdict, which challenged Sanusi's reappointment. The three-member panel, led by Justice Muhammad Mustafa, insisted that the Federal High Court overstepped its jurisdiction by ruling on a matter it was not authorized to handle. Adoye, what do you call this, a victory or a setback, or both?
Well, it's a victory for the winner, you know.
Is there a winner already?
I mean, for the giving the judgment, okay. You know, it's a victory for, you know, one side and a setback for the other. But I think my main worry, you know, is that traditional institutions are suffering a lot of political interference, you know, in the past years. And I don't think it will be good for its image and even for the image of the government. Because...
But whose image now?
Well, the image of the traditional institution itself, because institutions that has existed for over 100 years. But you discover that when politicians come in, they want to ensure that they have their own candidate there. So I believe, or I suspect that this case may still go to the Supreme Court, you know. But even there, whoever wins this battle, there is no guarantee that such a person is immune from future political interferences, you know. So we've seen this happen over and over again. And I wish we have a situation where traditional institutions should be left, you know, alone to handle traditional matters, you know, free from the complex intrigues of politics, of electoral politics.
Well, how did we get here?
Well, it's a whole lot of factors, you know, where political actors want to be in charge of spiritual matters, they want to be in charge of economic matters, they want to be in charge of political matters. You know, there are several times they have tried to even go into issues of mosque and church. There was a time they were talking about, oh, if you are a pastor, you cannot spend mosque and so. So
I've seen a situation where
you know, national institutions should be, you know, they should not suffer, you know, constant interference from the government. You know, it started during the military era, though we have seen instances even in the early 60s, you know, that people were removed. But it boils down to the fact that political actors, people in power, they want everything under their control. So if you are a very influential traditional ruler that, you know, you have a lot of crowd, you know, something happened in the, I think the 80s or 90s, you know, it happened at Ibadan. There was a very popular play called Arelu, staged by a very popular, you know, actor, Jim Aliu. It's late now. Yes. Anytime this play was shown on NTA, the whole street of Ibadan, Southwest, would be empty. Do you know that he told me, Jim Aliu, before he died, that, look, the military government summoned him, that, look, this thing you are doing, that the whole street is deserted. It means you can plan the coup. You can see the mentality. That's what Jim Aliu told you, you know, blessed memory. He said, every time, everywhere we said, this thing, we are afraid of this thing can come. You can imagine that kind of thing. So, political actors, people in power, they must realize that they have a limit. You can't be controlling traditional institutions. You want to take over churches, you want to go. There's going to bring a lot of conflict. And I hope, we're happy that, I mean, these are cousins, the two of them. you know, the same family and all that.
Actually a family issue.
You know, I'm impressed by the temperament of the two actors. Now, we've not seen violence in this case,
exactly.
compared with what we have been. So I hope they keep that tradition, and whoever wins at the Supreme Court, they should just allow it to sit as an act of Allah, and then accept it the way it is.
Exactly.
Asoko, have you tried to interpret this judgment?
Well, I've tried, you know, but I think where the appeal courts, you know, the major issue, the thing there is that the case should not have even have been heard by Justice Lima in the first place, you know, that it doesn't have jurisdiction. And when once the Supreme Court or the appeal court says a particular matter, you know, doesn't have jurisdiction, that is the end. Because jurisdiction is like the foundation of every suit. You understand? So that is where the appeal court just knocked off this whole matter. You know, yeah, I know one of the appellant was one of the kingmakers. You know, he was part of the people that they removed in one of the 4 Emirates then, you know. So for him to have even come to say, okay, my fundamental human right has been, you know, violated, blah, blah, blah. The appeal court has said, in the first place, you don't even have, you shouldn't have entertained that at the federal level. You know, 2 of the members of the panel also disagreed with even Justice Kolawole, you know, because Justice Kolawole was saying they should move the case back to the high courts for them to start. But the 2 of them are saying there's no point even entertaining the matter in the first place. Okay? So, for now, the court has, you know, ruled. The appeal court has actually ruled. And we want to see if they will have to move it further. You know, when I mean further, going to the Supreme Court. But this is a family matter. And just like Adio said, the temperament of both of them.
Family matter?
Yeah,
I think it's now a national issue.
No, the temperament of both emirs, you know, is something that everybody should learn. You know, they have taken it with all strides. Nobody is abusing anybody. This person is going to his own path, and that person, the other one is going. It is just the supporters that are carrying it on their head.
And I think to an extent, they're still in control of their supporters.
Exactly. You understand? And they still tell their supporters, so, you know, keep calm. And that is what we need. That is what we want to hear. Even, I want to believe that even after the Supreme Court's, you know, judgment, eventually, they will be able to tell their supporters, well, it is the will of God. You know, let's take it that way. They are brothers. Whether they are cousins or they come from the same blood. So they will find a way to, you know, sort this out. It is just unfortunate the politicians have infiltrated into their family, you know, to bring this, you know, rhyme, you know. But they should be able to find a way around it. If the court says it is this person or that person, let them just take it that way. And it is high time politicians leave traditional rulers to rule their domain the way that the people in that domain want them to rule them. They should just allow them. Because infiltrating into traditional institution, that's why they're even saying, put us in the constitution.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, yes.
When you put them into the constitution, in fact, I would even suggest that they should not even put them in the constitution.
Why?
Because once you put the traditional institution into the constitution, that is when the politician will use them the more.
Some of the opinion that they would be protected.
They are already protected by their people.
Is that enough?
Yes.
I mean, you just talked about political interference.
A king about the traditional ruler. A traditional ruler is being put there not by the government. Yes, the government will give them staff of office and all that. But by God himself.
Are you sure?
Do you know, yes, listen, do you know what it takes? Do you know what it takes to be a king? Do you know the rituals you will go through? Do you know the spirits that you go through?
People now pay for it, you know.
That is, do you know why people are doing that? Because politicians have infiltrated.
Yeah,
were you hearing all these things before? You were not. But all of a sudden, we started hearing that, oh, this person should not be the king because their so-so person. So, traditional institution should be traditional. Do not bring politics into the traditional institution. I know people might not like my position, but I feel that once you put the traditional institution and you are trying to give them that cover, politicians will make use of that institution and then they will rubbish it. I can bet you. Because look at what is happening to the local government today.
And I also think some traditional rulers also like the fact that they're being used by these politicians. But does it interest you or does it worry you that the matter of jurisdiction is still a talking point here? Many thought that Justice Kekereekun had, addressed this issue. Is it about the lawyer now or the judge?
Well, it definitely is the lawyer. If the lawyer should have known that anything that concerns traditional institutions shouldn't have gone to the federal high court. It should have started from the state high court.
What about the judge who ruled over the case?
The judge now is do you know he's not a justice in the Court of Appeal? He's a justice now. He has done his own and he has left. He has moved higher. You understand? So he's left now. That's why I'm saying they can still go to the Supreme Court. Let the Supreme Court justice or the Supreme Court judges, let them be the ones to now decide finally what we have. But like I keep saying it, I don't know if people who are already jostling for traditional institutions to go into constitution to save them and save them from politicians, they should not clamor for it.
Okay. I think let me come to you. It's still this matter of jurisdiction, because I've heard people say when a case involves the fundamental human right of anyone, any court can take up the matter. Jurisdiction is not considered here. How true is that?
Well, the issue of jurisdiction, we have courts who are of lower jurisdiction and courts that have higher jurisdiction. But the point is that if you are supposed to take a case into magistrate's court and you decide to go to a higher court, your lawyer will challenge you, in a higher jurisdiction. And then, so the process should continue to exhaust itself. That's my own, because even when you technically go to court and say, okay, this court has no jurisdiction, the other lawyer will insist that, look, so it's now left for the judge to decide, looking at the books. But the fact of the matter is that we have a court of final jurisdiction, which is the Supreme Court. So whatever is the case, people should exhaust all the available legal
first,
and then at the end of the day, the Supreme Court will, give the final judgment. So because issue of jurisdiction has always been very contentious. People will still go to high court and go to. So at the end of the day, thank God we have the Court of Appeal and then the Supreme Court. So at the end of the day, in this case, the Supreme Court will give a final judgment that will be binding on all the parties. No matter how anybody tries to manipulate some pranks, legal pranks.
All right, but do you think the court decisions have ensured a fair hearing for all the parties involved in this Emirship tussle?
Well, you see, if anybody loses a case in court, for him, there's no fair hearing. So fair hearing is neither here nor there. But for somebody, that judgment favors you, you believe that there's fair hearing. I hardly will see any person that loses in court, even though he has a very bad case. He will still tell you there's no fair hearing.
Yes.
But I think the principles of law, once the principles of law are applied, without taking into consideration any sentiments and all that, then the fair principle has been applied.
Are there any risk of prolonging this dispute?
Definitely, the case will be prolonged. It's certainly, it's quite certain, because we've been on it now, I think, since last year. And I believe we have not seen the end of this case. So it's too early for any party to go to sleep. I believe this case will drag on and on until the Supreme Court will be able to make a final pronouncement.
All right, before we move on, just for instance, Emirship wins this dispute and he remains the emir. Are you worried that, peradventure a new governor emerges in 2027? Does it bother you that a new emir might emerge?
Well, it depends on who the new governor will be. Let's get to that bridge before we cross it. Okay. But for now, it still has the Supreme Court to contend with, because I know they will still move to the Supreme Court. And anything that concerns land matters, chieftaincy matters, sometimes it can take years. You understand? So it might even be nobody knows the number of years it might be, because you can go to Supreme Court will say, go back, go and start the matter again. And then they'll start dragging the matter till they get back to the Supreme Court again.
All right.
So let's just be hopeful that another government will come, and then the government will not be too hesitant, to remove, the emir in any way.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to another very interesting story. Mismanagement of resources as a result of corruption continues to be the bane of Nigeria's development. So when looted, resources are recovered. The fear of mismanaging such is rife. The Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center has called on the federal government to ensure transparency in the use of the repatriated $52.88 million linked to a former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Disney Alison Madueke. The United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Richard Mills, led a delegation to sign the Assets Return Agreement in Abuja on Friday after forfeiture of the Galactica assets linked to Alison Madueke and her associate, while commending the cooperation between Nigeria and the U.S. in the repatriation of the funds. The Executive Director of CISLAC, Awa Ramzajani, urged the government to ensure transparency and accountability in the management of the recovered assets. Let's share the story of the signing of the agreement with you.
According to the agreement, the repatriated funds will be utilized through the World Bank to partly fund the rural electrification project to increase the reliability and availability of renewable energy in Nigeria. The balance of $2.88 million will be disbursed as a grant by the Nigerian government to the International Institute for Justice to support the rule of law and counter-terrorism project through the counter-terrorism capacity building for criminal justice sector practitioners in East, West, and North Africa.
The asset return agreement being executed today also ensures that the return assets are applied directly to developmental projects. As agreed, the $50 million of the repatriated funds will be utilized through the World Bank to partly fund the rural electrification project to increase the reliability and availability of renewable energy in Nigeria.
Measures have been put in place to ensure that the repatriated funds are not only disbursed, but also utilized transparently and accountably by the World Bank and IIJ, with periodic reports to be forwarded to Nigeria and the U.S. on the implementation of the project.
I'm also very pleased and have great confidence in the ability of the Minister and his team to effectively monitor and ensure that these funds are indeed used for the benefit of the Nigerian people. We would not be signing this agreement if we did not have confidence that this is exactly how the funds, these return funds, will be used. So again, this is a good day, I think, for our two governments, and a very good day for the people of Nigeria.
These project earmarks to be carried out will contribute in no small measure to creating the enabling environment for the socio-economic growth and development.
All right, gentlemen, this is good news, right? And according to the minister, most of the recovered funds will be used for rural electrification through the World Bank. About $2 million will be used to support rule of law and counter-terrorism projects. Adeoye.
Well, I continue to remain shocked and baffled by the penchant for crime, for stealing crime by government officials. I've been wondering what this woman had wanted to use these funds to do. Because it's the height of irresponsibility for you to accumulate this kind of wealth. That even your entire lifetime, if you start spending maybe 20 million naira in a day, you can't exhaust this.
That's what some people call generational wealth. Yeah.
You are from a community where people don't have drinking water. Polluted environment, children cannot go to school. Then, when you are given position of responsibility, it's not as if they are not There are not millions of people that are better than you. It's just luck. There are people that are more intelligent than you, more educated. Then the first thing you want to think of is to steal in the most brazen manner. So, you see, I think we have not had the last of stolen funds in Nigeria. Because most of the time, it is even those that are keeping these funds that inform us that, okay, we have these funds. And I believe that stealing of public funds in Nigeria is not just about that individual alone. We are talking about the former minister. But these funds pass through the banking system. The National Financial Intelligence Unit, there are rules. If a particular fund is above whether corporate or individual account, a particular limit, you have the responsibility to inform the government. So, these funds, there are collaborators. Most of the time when we talk about ministers stealing money, there are collaborators. Everywhere. In other countries, banks are sanctioned. Banks are, they even collect their certificates. Because there's no way an individual could have stolen this fund without bank managers, bank directors, bank CEOs, that these funds are routed through them, locally and internationally. Because, you see, the process of moving funds from, point A to B and other, a lot of people are involved. So, if we are really serious about fighting corruption, serious about this minister alone, those people that collaborated with her in the banking sector, in the financial institutions, also in the NNPC. If you're a public official and some funds are being moved out from the oil sector, you have the responsibility by law to inform the government that, look, I'm aware of this. Let us imagine a situation where that government won the election in 2015 and they are still in power today. We'll be celebrating her everywhere.
Exactly.
And we don't know a lot of people who are celebrating today that if you can open the box tomorrow when they are no longer in power, it's going to be the same story. So I think, it's a disgrace that Nigerians can accumulate. I mean, when you get power, the next thing is to kill people, commit genocide against your own people. This is economic genocide. You can imagine the number of jobs these funds will have provided for people. Roads. We are still talking about, we don't have railways, we don't have this, we don't have that. When, if you collect the funds stolen by individuals, you discover that even it may offset our debts. So I'm glad about what has happened, and it shows that irrespective of the dark cloud, there's silver lining. For the fact that we are retrieving back these funds, it's good omen for us. And I say kudos to the government, kudos to the EFCC, and also the challenge now is that, look, these funds must be managed very well. The government needs to manage this well, and I'm happy about what Rafsanjani is doing, and other civil society organizations to monitor, how these funds will be used. Because if we are not careful, these funds will also be embezzled again by certain individuals.
All right. Before I go back to Osukwa, earlier you said Nigerians have the responsibility to see and tell, observe and tell. But how well do we protect whistleblowers in this part of the world?
That is a major challenge.
Major problem.
It's a major problem. But you know that in those days, we had no EFCC. But the media was the best whistleblower. In the days of Newswatch, in the days of Sketch newspaper, in the days of Tempo, there was nothing like EFCC. But we are getting information. We are publishing reports in our newspapers. In the 60s, in the 50s, the newspaper, the Nigerian newspaper since 1859, when they started with the first publication, has been the biggest whistleblower without any compensation. Now you say, okay, you are a whistleblower, we are going to give you some funds. But the media has been performing that role. So we need to challenge the media to do more. More investigative reports. There's really nothing anybody can do. Because I know that in those days, in Punch, Guardian and all that, if you want to write a story, investigative report, you may not even put your name. But that is report, once you have your facts, you push it into public domain. So I think we need to do more. But that does not mean that we should not fight to protect whistleblowers, especially those that have taken it up as a profession. So that's why the National Assembly needs to do more in terms of ensuring the right legal mechanism, so that people who are reporting criminals we know that, you know, they are not going to pay for it. Maybe they'll be killed or something.
All right. Thank you very much, Adeoye. Asuko, would you say this is a major boost for the anti-corruption war?
Yes, I think it is, because if you look at it, we've been getting all these monies, you know, stashed out in Nigeria for quite some time, even during Buhari's time. Anytime we are looking for money, Abacha's loot will just come handy, you know. So this is really good. The EFCC and even the current minister, Attorney General, you know, they've been doing wonderfully well in trying to see that all the cash that we have outside, you know, they are being brought back. I still think that we can, because what I notice is that sometimes this money, they just come in, and then the only thing we hear is, oh, we'll be using it for XYZ. How do we stop corruption? Is this something that we can, as Nigerians, decide that, okay, henceforth, when monies like this come, and we want to use it for, now that we are talking about rural electrification, they can go to the Ziani's village or whoever's village and say, this pole that they are doing, this transformer, is being built by funds stolen from XYZ person. As in, they put that stolen or corrupt practices, they put it in bold, so that people see it and then it becomes a shame, a shameful thing. Because if we continue like this, in China, when once you are caught, you know what it means. Anybody that is caught in China for corrupt practices, the person is gone. So we have to get to that level whereby people begin to see corruption as something that is really bad, as in stealing funds, public funds, as something that is really bad. Because even now, everybody just feel that, oh, corruption is part of us, is our way of life.
And, you know, you cannot really blame these politicians. I mean, they know that even when EFCC catches them, it's always a struggle. Nigerians have to beg for EFCC to give us names.
That is what I'm saying. You know, because I'm saying it now that because people have seen corruption as being a way of life. So if this government is really serious about fighting corruption, if we really need to fight corruption, let's begin to name and shame. If a cash is coming from somewhere and we want to do any road, we'll do a billboard or something, or do a plaque and put it there and say, this road was built by so-so person's money, corrupt money or something stolen.
She stole.
You understand?
Right.
So that alone, if somebody is growing up, a child is growing up, they can even take children to go there and do exhibition or something. Let them go there for, you know, excursion and see that once you steal, this is what will happen to you.
All right,
you know, let's get to that level.
We will. Are you sure we will?
No, we have to get to that level.
Let's go on a commercial break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. Stay with us, everyone.
May this new year bring you joy.
Here's to a fresh start, everyone.
May this year bring you love, laughter, and happiness.
Happy New Year!
Wishing you a year of growth and success.
Happy New Year!
A new year, a new start, way to go.
Just as sports is exciting to fans, may the new year excite you all.
Wishing you a memorable and joyful New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, wishing you a year of growth and success.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Here's wishing you a profitable New Year.
Cheers to an open fresh year 2025.
Happy New Year once again. I wish you well.
The energy is good.
We can build a new friendship.
Cheers to a fabulous year.
I am sweet, but don't try me still.
How can you imagine something Christian?
I avoided one person.
She does owe me an apology.
Have you ever Googled? I didn't Google it. Like I said, Girl, I read. You should read often.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. And I've been hanging out with Asukwa James and Adewale Adeoye. Gentlemen, we're still talking about former Minister Desiree Alison Madueke and Sislak Lot's return of the Zani's $52.88 million recovered assets. Sislak is urging transparency and accountability. So let me come to you, Adeoye. This is a non-conviction based forfeiture. What does it mean for Nigeria? And for criminals, whether appointed or elected, who think they can steal Nigeria's funds and keep it somewhere, what does this mean for them?
Well, I think for many Nigerians, I suspect that each time we get we retrieve stolen funds from government officials or private organizations, it's good news for us. It also adds to the fact that we have been lucky, largely, that those who have been appointed as CFCC chairmen, they have been, to a large extent, been quite professional in their jobs, to a very large extent. So it shows that the current CFCC chairman is also trying his best within the limited political circumstances. From the time of Unruly, I mean, he tried his best, Mango and all of them. So it's not easy to be the FCC chairman in an environment like this that is quite corrupt. So that they are even making effort to get back some of these funds is good news for us. But then, one question is this. It's about 9 years now, 9 years that they left power. We waited for 9 years to get these funds. What does that mean to you? In the first case, when these funds were being taken abroad, the British intelligence were aware, Nigerian intelligence were aware, the people working in the banking sector and NNPC, they were aware, but nobody raised any eyebrow. Why is Britain keeping quiet? Because the West also benefits from stolen funds. That's the reality. Oh, sure, they do. Yes. About 19 billion pounds go to UK from Africa and third world countries, stolen funds. They will use these funds to transport businesses. You imagine if you are having 90 billion, this kind of funds, for 8 years, you know what you can do. The interest, you know what it means. So the West, they are not realistic in terms of assisting us to fight corruption. If not, immediately the funds go to UK, there will have been an alert. They will have alerted the Nigerian government. If not because we had a change of government in 2015, you will never know. And after 10 years, they are not talking about returning the funds. After, you can imagine the interest that may have accumulated. So it is not UK or Britain that will help us to fight. It is we. They are benefiting from this system because the funds is the kitchen of their banks. So Nigerian government must realize that, look, you don't have to wait for any country outside here to help you. The leaders must show determination to fight corruption. And when we are talking about corruption, it's not just about government officials alone. Go to corporate organizations, private individuals, private companies, even, artisans. You imagine how, you call a mechanic to come and work for you, a plumber. The first thing he wants to do is to exploit you. So even we Nigerians that are complaining about government officials and all that, the level of corruption going on
is so much.
It's too much. So we have a situation where corruption has become a culture. And to deal with that problem is a multi-dimensional approach. It's not just enough you arrest one government official. We need a situation where an average Nigerian will find it very difficult to steal. And it means you need to address the subconsciousness of Nigerians. And the founding fathers of our country, they had a very good educational system in those days, from primary school. The kind of messages you are going to get from your teachers, the kind of folklores you are going to read about tortoise and his wife, talking about greed, and ending up to tell you that the tortoise will pay dearly for stealing. Those things are no longer there. Our children now walk Tom and Jake and Gary and to another. But in those days, you even be taught about how the kind of training you have. If you see money on the floor, you'll be so afraid to pick it.
Yeah, you don't turn to yam.
So the God of thunder will strike.
Yes. Or you turn to
yam. Or you turn to yam. So these things were designed in a way to model so that you grow up to be a cultured person. You have fear of humanity. You are afraid to steal. You see that stealing, is an embarrassment. Instead of stealing, I will either be a slave. And this folklore is common everywhere, all over the country, not just in Yoruba land alone. So our children grew up to be complete human beings, and they gave glory to Nigeria. They became the best in almost every profession. Today, corruption is affecting everywhere. Medical department, medical sector, artisan sector, everywhere it is corruption. These days, if you say, okay, I'm looking for a particular street, the next thing is that when that person tells you he's looking at compensation, you are going to bank to collect 100,000 naira from the bank. The way the person will look at you is as if I'm looking at you to give me something. So we may be blaming
coming out. Somebody say
it's waiting. Yes, sir. So our humanity is lost. We need to rebuild that humanity. Without that, we cannot be talking about development. We cannot be talking about industrialization. We cannot be talking of having a great country unless we change our attitude. People are saying, "Oh, Nigeria should change." No, it is the leaders that we put to create. They are the ones that are custodians of rules of sanctions, of what is sanctions for what is bad, and then reward for what is good. That's why they are managing our laws. They are the custodians. So it's the government that can set standard to impose sanctions, to punish people that are, that flout the law. It's not individual. They will not change on their own.
Thank you very much.
Government needs a lot
was quite elaborate. Thank you so much. Before we move on, Asukwo, how can we go after more of these stolen funds?
That is the work of the EFCC. The EFCC have to spread its dragnet. We have to start looking for where all these funds, have been repatriated to. There was a time Switzerland used to be the haven of, headquarters of stolen funds. So it's been long that I've even heard that we have even gotten money from there. So I'm even worried. So the EFCC can still probe further. Probe further in the sense that all past ministers who have, held positions, particularly the Minister of Petroleum in the past, and where our funds have been going to. It might not be even ministers of petroleum, others, to see where these funds are, and then find a way of, trying to bring them back. We have signed quite a number of, deals and agreements with some of these countries. They will help us to repatriate. If the US can do it, the UK will do it. Switzerland will do, France will do. That is why the president is going everywhere. So that once there's anything that concerns where our money is being, kept, those countries can easily, play ball and then bring back, repatriate our money. The EFCC can do that. It's just for them to sit down and begin to look where where our monies are, and then the monies will come out.
But when you hear CISLAC repeatedly calling for a trust fund to be set up to manage these repatriated assets, what does this mean?
It means maybe in the past, these stolen funds have been stolen. Okay? So it means that when these monies are coming, they should just be just like a trust fund, truly, kept there. And then at the end, we'll start looking for what do we use these monies for. Okay. Do we need to use it to build a school? Do we need to use it to, just like you are saying about the rural electrification? You understand? Do we need to buy a transformer in one particular, town or community? Right. So that there will be that transparency and accountability. But when these monies are coming, all the monies from Abacha and all that, by now, somebody is supposed to tell us, oh, this is the amount that we collected from Abacha, and this is what we have used it for. Begin to itemize them one by one. That is what CISLAC is talking about. Right. So I think we need that accountability from this government, because they have started, from this government, so that people do not question them.
All right.
CISLAC has done a lot of work on EDA, and there are publications showing that stolen funds are not being well used.
Well
so
used.
many
That is why they are talking about.
They collect these funds, but they don't
do them.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk security. As security concerns continue to mount, innovative solutions are being explored to enhance Nigeria's defense capabilities. The military is considering engaging law-abiding citizens in the manufacture of locally fabricated arms and military-grade equipment. During a visit to troops of Operation Safe Haven in Plateau State, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, reaffirmed his commitment to ending the production and circulation of illegal arms in the country. Asukor, let me start with you. This is not the first time we're hearing about domesticating the production of military equipment. Is this long overdue?
Yes, I know we've been doing it. I think Daikon, have been manufacturing, rifles here in Nigeria. I think what the Chief of Defense Staff is actually saying is that people who have the knowledge of producing these rifles in their backyard, we are going to employ you into our, into the Nigerian army. You understand? And I think there was a time even the EFCC chairman also made that said something almost similar to all these young boys who, rather than going ahead and doing yahoo, that they can come and then we employ you for you to help the EFCC to fight corruption and cybercrime. Now this is happening in the Nigerian army. We have so many talented young boys who are out there. People are using them for them to fabricate all these guns, They can... The Nigerian, I think the Chief of Defense Staff is, opening the doors now. But he has to make that... it has to be very open and transparent when it comes to that. Because, for instance, if somebody is making gun, and you say, okay, I'm making one small toy gun. Can I go and meet Nigeria Army? They don't arrest the person. So you understand what I mean? Because what he's saying is that instead of you doing it and selling it illegally, would they put you in our employ? You understand? For you to be doing it for us rather than doing it outside. And selling it, you understand? Yes. So then it needs to come up with a new strategy so that anybody that has that idea, that knowledge, it does not just, go there and at the end of the day arrest him. So he has to be open and transparent with that. I think that is where we want him to do, because it's a very good idea. You are trying to bring a bad egg and put him back into the system, and then so that it can help the system, and that alone would also help the system in time to even stop people from getting, these light weapons. I think it's a good idea.
Adoye, your take on this?
Well, I think I'm quite glad, but there is a difference between theory and practice. We have had these statements for a very long time. And
even President Buhari said so.
Yes, in terms of, in fact, I think during President Olusegun Obasanjo, Daikon was revived for a very short time. They even manufactured some weapons at that time. That company was set up in 1964 by an act of parliament. And at that time, there were other defense corporations set up in Brazil today. I mean, at that same period. If you compare, and India, if you compare Daikon with South Africa, the defense companies in Brazil and India that we started together, it's like day and darkness. We have nothing, practically nothing to show for it. It's not as if we lack the creative energy. The problem is the political environment. There is the need for us to understand that when you are talking about national defense, the best way for you is to be able to a large extent, be able to manufacture your own military weapons. For state security, for national pride, and also for national security. Because if France sells some weapons to you or Americans, they can also sell the same thing to your enemies. And if you have a quarrel or war with other countries, they can expose the secrets of those weapons they have sold to you to the other third party. What other countries that are military mights have done is to look for assets, human assets. They may not necessarily be professors. Mikhail Kalashnikov was a truck driver mechanic. He was drafted into the Soviet army in 1938. And in 1941, when the Germans invaded Russia, he was wounded. Just a mechanic. But he later on, designed Kalashnikov, one of the deadliest weapons in the world. A mechanic, for that matter. The same thing to machine gun. The first, automatic machine gun was designed by somebody who was an apparatus of a carrier company. And he went into this invention and was able to come out with one of the best, with almost about 600 rounds of ammunition that changed, revolutionized military warfare. So there are a lot of talents. If you go to Jos, I'm aware of this as a journalist. I've done a lot of investigative stories. Oka, Jos, Ijebu-Ode. There are weapons they manufacture in these areas. The only thing is that they sell to armed robbers. And I'm telling you that in Nigeria, even in Lesha, in Osun State, there are factions of AK-47. The only problem is that when you use it, after some time, it will become very hot. So what you need to do is to bring these guys together. If you can bring in Boko Haram and then you indoctrinate them, bring them to, why can't you look for these people, bring them, locate them? What is happening? The police begin to chase them. They arrest them, and then sometimes collect money from them. Or even, some of them will run away. Look for them. They are creative. What is happening is that the government is, as free to tap their creative energy and use it, in the right way. And I also think that Nigerian Army should begin to think of collaboration with the Nigerian, the polytechnics, the universities, because these are centers of ideas, centers of knowledge. There must be a framework of collaboration between the Nigerian Army. That is not happening for now. If you go to our university system, University of Nigeria and Soka, Calabar, and all that, you see students that their projects, they have done a lot of designs that are waiting for people to bring. Most of these things you see.
Just small cash
yes,
for them to...
Russia, UK and all that. The products you are seeing are from the universities. Products of people in the university. So university is not just about Aluta, not just about ASU fighting federal government. We need to work out a synergy with the, our academic community so that we can become a superpower as conceived by our forefathers, so that we can, it's going to earn us foreign exchange. It's going to ensure we stop importing weapons from France, UK, and all that. So we are going to save a lot of funds and to create jobs, for our country. So I'm happy.
And even crime will reduce.
Crime will reduce. So I hope that they will follow up with this.
Absolutely. If we're serious about this now, because just like we said before, President Buhari also said the same thing, and he said the government of Olusegun Obasanjo also made the same proposal or proposition. So if we're serious about this now, what level of commitment do you hope to see from government? So
the level, because the person who has said this is the Chief of Defense Staff, okay. And I want to believe now that we are talking about it on JH, he's going to start looking at, okay, what is the framework, that will bring people out from their domains or wherever they are now. Those who can, those who are already making these, manufacturing these light weapons, okay? And so that if somebody is there and he listens, he will say, okay, fine, where am I going to? Do I, register somewhere? Do I go to the 19th Brigade? Do I go to, where can I register myself? Because I know I can manufacture X, Y, Z, So the Chief of Defense Staff should be able to bring out that framework now. It's not just about saying it, okay? People will be willing to do this because once they are coming, it's not just for them to come and manufacture for you. You also tell them, okay, when you are doing this, you will be paid. We will house you. We will do this. We will do that. It's not just, you understand? So that they don't go back to crime. So he has to sit down to see how this can work. Because we need our youths or those who are manufacturing these things to put them into the system rather than them using it against the system, because that is what they are doing. So it's a good idea, but just like you're saying, it's not just about talking, it's about implementing it.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on. The power of dialogue has been long been recognized as a tool for peace building, especially in regions marred by prolonged conflict. The good news is that the people of Agatu local government area and members of Mieti Alakatu Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, in Benue states have come together to resolve decades of hostilities through dialogue aimed at fostering lasting peace in the country, in the area rather. The leaders of the two communities also promised to expose criminal elements threatening the peace in that part of the state. Let's share the news by TVC News. Mayowa Kwato with you.
The search for a lasting peace, which has eluded residents of Agatu local government area of the state for decades, continues to earnest here at Obagaji, the local government headquarters, with critical stakeholders from the opposing communities. In a show of commitment, the leadership of the Fulani Socio-Cultural Group, while pledging to resolve and give peace a chance, vowed to expose any criminal elements threatening the peace of the area.
We have come to appeal to them to kindly forgive us over what has happened so that we can live together and continue to live together. We are here in recognition of the peace effort we have been doing all this while in Agatu local government, and it's paying off because today we saw more chiefs, the local government chairman, everybody is present to ensure that we have permanent peace in Agatu local government. We grew up here, this is where we used to know as home, and want to come back and continue to live together peacefully in Agatu local government area of Benue State.
There had been several chairmen before him, and things never go the way we wanted. But he is towing the side of God, and with God on his side, by the grace of God, we are getting there.
Chairman Agatu local government Melvin Eje sets up a 14-member committee to consolidate on the gains of the peace meeting.
It was agreed that peace should reign in Agatu between the farmers and the herders. Agatu accepted to wholeheartedly forgive and forget the past. The Fulani, on their part, have agreed to expose or fish out any of their sons who is a criminal element within our land and destroying our crops. It is also our agreement, the Fulani tendered unreserved apology for every wrong they have done to Agatu people. And we also agree that where some of our criminal youth took law into their hand, we also tender such apology. And we have decided to forgive each other.
This marks a significant step in the concerted reconciliation attempts between the Agatus and the Fulanis, who have been at loggerheads for decades. Mayowa Okwato, TVC News, Obagaji.
Our correspondent there, Mayowa Okwato. Adeoye, let me start with you. Perhaps you may need to help us with the background story of how this crisis started and the significance of this latest development.
Well, I think the conflict between the herdsmen, who are essentially Fulani, and indigenous communities in Benue State is not a new problem. It's been there for a very long time. But what is new is the dimension, the extremely violent dimension, the level of killings and counter killings, the desperate search for vengeance, hate killings. And this problem has always been there, which first started during the military era, where local governments were created by fiat. People were lumped into different without consultation. So we find a situation where it brought conflict. It's part of the nemesis of military rule in our country. And I had the fortune of going through some of the papers. I think it was Justice Ayorikefe, that presided over the boundary adjustment and all that. And the military at that time had a position that all communities, for instance in Niger Delta, should be splintered into different groups so that they will not be in one state and be strong enough to be able to challenge the federal government. So for them, creation of local government was this for security of the individual sitting up, sitting at the seat of power, not for the convenience of the people that they are governing. So that challenge is there. And you have a lot of local governments where a local government that may, because local government should be created based on ethnic and language similarities. But when you have a situation where you just match people together, there is going to be conflict. Who wants to be local government chairman, who wants to be this? In the case of Agatu, I think basically what we have is a clash between farmers and herdsmen, which when it started growing, we did not respond decisively. We allowed it to take a life of its own. The herdsmen usually come for grazing, but because the numbers that are coming are larger than what it used to be, And because of the crisis in Mali, the Maghreb region, the number of people migrating from those areas almost tripled. You know, so so in search of resources, you know, to graze for all sorts of. So a larger number of people began to move to Benue State, which is the food basket of Nigeria. A lot of farmers there, women and all that. So I think that was the beginning of the problem. And when these people came, they also wanted to start settling down, you know, and that brought a lot of conflict. And then their cattle, we have a situation where they are, you know, even eating farm produce. So that brought conflict, you know, naturally. And I think that if we had responded decisively at that moment, we would have been able to resolve the problem. We are talking of Agatu now. This is perhaps the first time the local government chairman is coming out with this initiative. Why didn't this happen 20 years ago? So I think there's no problem without a solution. And there are no, when you have a conflict, the two parties, they usually have one strong point or the other. They have their own strength and their own weaknesses. So I'm happy about what the local government chairman has done. And I think the most interesting aspect is that a 14-man committee that will now monitor developments. Because I've been involved in conflict, setting up this kind of thing before. What we usually do is that we set up these committees, and then they will be giving reports. If they notice any little, maybe conflict between two individuals, Fulani man, or maybe the cows invaded a particular farm, they alert the local government chairman immediately within 24 hours. Because what we have seen is that when this kind of thing happens, you know, they invade your farm, they kill somebody, the next thing, you also attack. Then, maybe after some time, you begin to mobilize from other areas, you say, and then nothing happens. So immediately, 24 hours, alert the local government chairman. The first thing the committee will do is to invite both parties. And then intervene and resolve. So I'm really happy about what he has done. But I think this should not be restricted to Agatu local government alone. It should go around the entire Benue State. And the 14-member committee, they have to work for 24 hours. They have to go on visiting those areas, set up, have contacts in all the local governments and towns that if anything happens, give us information. There must be a very effective feedback mechanism so that this peace can be sustained in Benue State.
All right. Asokwa.
Yeah, I think it is in the best interest that Agatu or Benue is in peace, because that is the food basket of Nigeria, you know, because now that we are talking about food production, we need that state to start producing food. And for the fact that both parties, you know, when I mean both parties, that is the farmers and the herders have decided, you know, to give peace a chance. It shows that we are in for something good. And for the local government chairman, Melvin Ejie, fantastic man, you know, because I know most times when we call him for, you know, for things like this, he's always willing, and you know that he's a very brilliant person. So I am not surprised that he's coming out to this idea, because he has been at the forefront of, you know, trying to bring peace in Benue. Okay, so for him to have brought this initiative is kudos for, you know, for him, you know. And we'll be looking at, because the 14-man committee will not just be sitting down and not doing anything. They need to start working out other measures, because there will be a time that the herders will want to, you know, look for food for, you know, their cattle.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so I think that should form part of the things that the committee will also look at. And that is where ranching comes in. That is where the ministry, which is a plus for this government, the Ministry of Livestock, okay, Development, that is where they can even start coming in to help them, so that we do not have a crisis in Agatu or any part of the country where we usually have crisis between the farmers and the herders. So this team, by now that they have a committee, they should be able to reach out to that ministry. How do we stop crisis when we don't have, when there's dry season, okay? When the Harmattan comes and there's no grass for us to, you know, give our cattle, how do we survive? How do our cattle survive? So that they don't go and begin to eat people's yams or people's crops, okay? So that is, another resurgence of crisis. Because take it, or leave. If the herders don't feed their cattle, there will be crisis. And if the farmers are losing their crops, there will be crisis. So they need to be very, very strategic with, this whole arrangement. It's a good arrangement. They want peace, and which is very good, because without peace, there's no development, So for them, I hope they'll be able to strengthen this, look at it. I know Melvin, I'm very sure he'll be looking at us right now, he'll be watching. They should be able to go further. We know that anybody that wants to cause crisis, the committee is going to arrest them, make sure that they are brought to book. But it shouldn't just be about that, because people want to feed. So the only way they can feed is for them to come up with areas whereby they feel that has been causing crisis in the past. Right. And what is that area? The herders, the farmers trying to see how they can secure their crops, and then the herders trying to feed.
Right. Having said that, Asoko, how does government now ensure long-term development and prosperity for the affected communities?
No, so the long-term, first, it depends on if it's this particular community. Like I told you, it is just about the farmers going about their normal business. And the only development there is that now that there's a great understanding between the farmers and the herders. The herders will definitely protect the farmers. And I can bet you, if this peace is long-lasting, the farmers will also, respect and also protect the herders. Because sometimes some of these things that happen is that why we've been having this crisis sometimes is that when the cattle or the cows, they go to the farms, they go and eat their crops, the first thing the farmers do is to kill the cows. And then the herder who has spent years to graze, to keep these cows, to nurture it to that growth, and you are going to kill it, becomes very angry. Then the next thing, they retaliate, and it becomes a major crisis. So what the government will do now is for them to help go back to, try and see how they can help, this Agatu local government, see how they can make sure that this peace that they have agreed is strengthened in any way possible. They can do it, government can do it. Thankfully, we have their governor is also trying to make sure that, peace returns to Benue in any way possible. So if this is maintained, I can see other people even trying to copy from them.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on quickly to our next conversation. Terrorism continues to strike at the heart of communities in Nigeria. In another tragic incident, Lakurawa terrorists have gunned down 3 staff of a leading telecommunication firm in Kebbi State. Reports revealed that the terrorists invaded a construction site at Gumki village in Arewa local government area of the state, where the deceased were installing a surveillance mast for the Nigeria Immigration Service. Sadwan Beadoye.
It's a very, very sad story to start the new year with. And, you can see that this group operates in the 2 states, Sokoto and Kebbi. And just like we have said, that it's not a new group. But we need to be very honest with ourselves about the nature or character of the conflict we are seeing. It's not just enough to talk about dealing with terrorists and then such vague words, oh, terrorists, go and kill them. We must understand the underlying historical, political, and economic factors, the dynamics of what is going on in the Northwest. And I say without fear of contradiction that what is going on in the Northwest is, to the largest extent, conflict between the Fulani and the Hausa people. These people have been historically brothers until even the 1804 jihad that took place, led by Madam Fodio, a very intelligent man who wrote so many books, leading faithful in the Islamic revolution. when that 1804 jihad took place, a lot of Hausa people were also part of it because they wanted the Hausa Abis, who are tyrannical, to be removed. Having removed these people, what we had a situation where the Fulani people became the ruling class in terms of control of spirituality, culture, and politics. And that lasted for a very long time, and it's still happening even up to today. So I think the leaders in the country, both Hausa and Fulani leaders, they did not manage this situation very well. They assumed that, oh, everything is okay. And you can see that we have a kind of molten magma that is about to explode, that we have been trying to suppress for so many years. The issue at hand is about issue of land, of resources, of people who see themselves as indigenous people, and some people as strangers, which was an issue that was never raised for the over 200 years of the jihad. So if this issue is coming up now, it's a failure of leadership on the part of the Fulani and Hausa leaders, and also on the part of the Nigerian leaders. Because states all over the world have emerged through different dynamics. Migration is all over the world. People move from one place to another. So we can have a situation where you have Fulani who have been here for over 300, 400 years. And then the Hausa people, of course, who have had dynasties for several years of the 14th century before the jihad in 1804. So I think that we did not manage this conflict very well. And it's a very dangerous conflict. We have a huge Hausa population in Mali, in Sudan, and in southern Sudan, millions of them. We have them in Mali, we have in Burkina Faso. So there it is in all over West Africa. In fact, I think it's one of the biggest ethnic groups. So there is a tendency that the same thing with the Fulani, who are present in about 16 countries in West Africa. There is a danger that if this conflict continues, they will begin to bring in their supporters to fight for them. So we should not see it as a problem of Sokoto Kebbi alone. It's a burden problem that can engulf the country. It's our problem. We need to see it as something that we need to address immediately, and we are pretending. The leaders are political leaders. Oh, they even call them bandits without looking at the underlying factors, the source of arms, the fact that if the national question we are talking about, having sovereign national conference, this is part of the issues we need to address. This is part of the issues we need to, because if you look at, what is going on now, it's spreading from Sokoto to Kebbi, and people, it's assuming a life of its own, and it has led to a situation where we have arms race. Two sides are trying to procure arms to prosecute this crisis, and looking for mobilizing mercenaries to aid their cause. So I hope that the government will not just look at this issue as a security issue, as a military issue, that it's a political, economic, cultural challenges that we need to tackle holistically. And we must realize that it's a big problem that can spread to the whole of the North. It's very unfortunate that for the first time, there's cleavage, there's division between Hausa Fulani. We should not be happy about it. It's not good for us. It's not good for the country. So it's our responsibility to make sure we call their leaders, sit down to address this problem so that we can have peace in the Northwest and also all over the country.
Thank you, Adeoye. Asoko, you've heard Adeoye. To what extent do you agree with him? And are we handling this Lakurawa issue? Are we handling it seriously at all?
Well, the defense headquarters said they are going to handle. Anyway, Adeoye just said something that is social cultural, and he has given us history and the background. And I believe that the government will also be looking at, the underlying factors, just like he has, put down. But what we need is we need peace. We need peace in the North. And I do not subscribe to those who want to occupy a space for them to start killing people. I know that, okay, maybe they will claim that we did not even heard anything about Lakura until maybe in 2018 or thereabout, you understand, and they came from Niger, from Mali and Niger and all that. So for the defense headquarters to say that they want to deal with them, I feel that they would have looked at this issue about their cultural beliefs, their religious background, and all that and all that. But they are also coming with another level of indoctrination of people in the Nigerian territory. And you know, when once it comes to the issue about religion, the war takes another dimension entirely, just like Boko Haram. You know, it is ideological war. And we do not want a situation whereby we'll be fighting wars that we are not supposed to. And it will become a religious war. War in northeast, another one in the northwest. We do not want that kind of a thing. So the security agencies are the ones that are supposed to now nip this in the bud. How do they do that? Do they want to start doing their civil-military relations and take it a notch higher? Do they want to go there and begin to dialogue? Or do they want to face them squarely, as in using the military force, you know? So I feel that the defense headquarters said they were on top of this, and they are going to deal with this. This is the first time we are hearing it, as in openly, whereby we are hearing that this group is killing people who went to do their legitimate job. This is the first time we are hearing. They might have been doing it in the past and we don't know. But now, we now heard that they have, at least they have killed people. So it means that they are now out for war. So we have to take the battle to them. You understand? So we should not just treat them with kid gloves. If, for instance, they want to dialogue, they want to be part of us, then there are ways for them. But right now, we have to deal with it.
But how much support would you say state governors are giving to the military in the fight against this Lakurawa group?
No, I think state governors are trying their best. The only thing they can do, they're trying their best in the sense that they will give logistic support. That is the only support they can give. I've not heard about Sokoto giving support or Kebbi giving support to the military, because the Lakurawa issue is not like Boko Haram that we heard that Borno state government is really pumping in money, giving all the support. So the defense headquarters need to now open up a full operation in these two states, Sokoto and Kebbi, because that is where they are. Just like we have operation that we had then, Operation Lafia Dole back then, and they have changed it to Andikai or whatever. Yeah, you know, they need to now get another operations for this particular state, these two states, which is Sokoto and Kebbi, and deal with this situation before it gets out of hand.
All right, so your final take on this before we move on.
Well, we continue to say, yes, they are from Mali, that is true. But the fact of the matter is that local communities in Gudu and Tangaza and Sokoto State were the ones that invited them to fend off the other attacks coming from the outside people.
But they have done their jobs, let them leave.
Yeah, in fact, they had disagreement with the community. They even killed one of the community leaders. You know, so they have established their dominion now. And I believe that we need to move very fast so that we can resolve this problem. There's no need for us to be happy if our brothers are not at peace, because we are, in one country.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Let's move on to our final conversation for today. The tax reform bills have continued to generate heated debates on the implications for the country's economy and citizens. Now, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has lent its voice to the call for more dialogue over the bills as they affect the workforce. Meanwhile, the presidency has criticized the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, for engaging in what it called irresponsible politics instead of prioritizing the welfare of residents of the states. Let's share the story of the NLC with you.
Since the introduction of the tax reform bill by the present administration, there have been mixed reactions from Nigerians on whether the reform will translate to economic success or not. The committee in charge of this proposed policy has, however, been relentlessly making efforts to sensitize Nigerians on its economic benefits, especially the aspects where it will favor the masses. Speaking during the launching of the Southwest Compressed Natural Gas Transport in Ibadan. President of the NLC believes the policy will indirectly put burdens on the masses and needs to be revisited.
Besides, and that is central, is the fact that when they talked about maybe people earning about 800, and you and I know that in the public service, people have gone beyond maybe level 2, 3. It then means almost all workers in Nigeria will be affected. Because if you take a baseline of 70,000 a month, which nobody is supposed to pay, but there's nobody on level 1, step 1. That's the 70,000. So by the time you get to where people are, everybody has been caught up with the 800 or 1 million bracket. So this tax did not exclude Nigerian workers. So, and that's areas that people had been consulted, and we are saying that we need to talk. That's the whole point, so that we tell you where it is hurting us. And that probably brings on the issue of indirect taxation.
It is my pleasure.
The CNG buses were given to the NLC by the federal government as part of its efforts to reduce the cost of transportation for Nigerians due to the impact of subsidy removal on petrol price. The 10 buses distributed to the Southwest is expected to render interstate services to passengers across the region.
When we embrace this CNG, then we have more disposable income to really deal with. We have to thank you very much for putting this one at the national front burner. Before you can talk about fairness.
Earlier, the labor union had a lecture on the tax reform bill, which provided an overview of what it entails and the possible ways forward in its implementation. Oladio Yowole, TVC News, Ibadan.
All right, gentlemen, Joe Ajero speaking there. I mean, it's good to see that he now has a different perspective. Before now, he wanted a total withdrawal of the bill, but now he says he's open to dialogue. Asoko, let me start with you. Do you really understand his point of view?
I think he's beginning to see the light out of, the tax reform, bill. First, I think most people should read the bill first, because I think I've read up to a certain part. I've not finished reading, because I've been seeing a summary of the tax bill. So, but I still need to, go ahead but from the summary, that bill is pro-people. And Ajero, who has one of the largest, labor force, okay, he would also be looking at, okay, what is in for me? I'm not sure that he's just going to discard the bill just like that. I think he would have reasoned and they would have told him that, come, the people who are earning less than $1 million annually are not going to pay tax. And then if you are earning $1 million and above, there's a percentage, okay, which, you are going to pay. I think by the time he sits down, that is why he's now calling for dialogue. He should be looking at, okay, what is the percentage going to be? As if you are earning $1 million plus yearly, what is the percentage?
So this is what it says. It says there's a section of the bill that stated zero taxation for workers earning below 800,000 naira per annum.
Yes.
But you and I know that in the public service, people have gone beyond maybe levels 2 and 3. It then means that all workers in Nigeria will be affected, because if we take a baseline of 70,000 naira per month, which somebody is supposed to pay, but there is nobody on level 1, step 1, that is 70,000 naira, which means no worker is exempted in the payment of taxes. Okay. So that is what Joe Ajero is saying.
So in the payment of taxes, okay, let's assume that a level 1 earns 70,000 plus or minus maybe 80,000, 90,000. I'm trying to make those calculations.
So he's saying there is
Times
nobody
12.
earning 70,000 naira.
Exactly. So that is where Ajero is correct. You understand? It's correct, because you'll be, if for instance you are earning 70,000 is the minimum wage, and then they put your allowances, put this and that, and you are earning up to 90,000, you'll be earning $1 million plus. Okay. So there's no how that you won't pay tax. You understand? So that is where the government, that is why we are saying, I'm not sure the president wants this bill to be signed immediately.
Okay.
He wants that discussion. He wants the discussion. The bill is still in the National Assembly. People should, bring these ideas and say, okay, fine, Mr. President, it's a good bill, but that 100 to that 800 that you are talking about, zero. There's nobody that is earning, that is going to be, that is not possible. Ajero is correct there. And that is where the government also have to listen, And I'm very sure this is a listening government, and then they will have to go back. The dialogue continues. The discussion about this bill continues. This government is not in a hurry to sign immediately. Because there will be so many people who will be paying. And do you know that if you are paying, if you are earning like a 1 million and above, there's a particular percentage you will pay. Perhaps, NLC can now come and say, okay, fine, if I'm 1 million and above, you can just be paying maybe 10% or 5% or 2%. They must have something, a paper, that they will take to the National Assembly when the public hearing starts.
All right. Aduye, let me come to you. This is Ajero's speaking. And on the other hand, you have former Senator Shehu Sani, who is saying, if you allow these bills to go down, the whole idea of trying to reconfigure Nigeria's economy to a prosperous future will be affected.
Absolutely. I think Agbero, as the president of Nigerian Labour Congress, he has the right to defend the interest of workers. And I agree with him to the extent that we need dialogue. And I believe he must have studied that bill very well. But one thing that should also guide us in this debate is that tax reform all over the world will favor a sector and will not necessarily favor another sector. And we are not talking about workers alone, members of NLC. This bill covers formal and informal sector, even private sector, So we have to look at the bill holistically, and then look at it from the scale of preference in terms of, okay, when we weigh both the good and the bad, which one is in the interest of majority of Nigerians? There's no tax bill that, some people will not, you need to pay more. You won't like it. Because Nigerians generally don't like to pay tax. The reason is that, okay, we feel that government, apart from the fact that, okay, we don't trust our government, we also naturally don't, tax reform in the 1950s, people have always insisted, resisted, even under Obafemi. People didn't want to pay.
I just don't even like anything.
So anything that will remove their salary.
They don't want it. So you need, all over the world, people are compelled by law to pay tax. Because without taxation, you cannot run the economy.
You can't.
The money you are getting from IGR is crucial. You can't just depend on, and you see, tax is a form of creativity that, it's a way to circulate wealth around. When people are talking about free education, there is no country in the world that education is free. People go, they don't pay, but others pay for it. They tax some other people, impose taxation, so that they can pay, and then they plug that money into education. So I think in the first place, we can't continue like this. There is the need for a new tax regime. The government needs to raise funds, look at the kind of debt we are owing. We need a more efficient tax collection system. We need a more transparent way of collecting tax, and more people need to pay tax. So I think when we are talking about labor leader, I've also read some, like Isari, also spoke and said, look, we are spreading, we should back, the federal government. But I think on the whole, I agree with Joe Ajero that there's a need for more dialogue. What will be bad is for political actors who are in the opposition to politicize this for electoral reasons. We must realize that as a country, there should be lowest common factor, something that we all agree that this thing is good for us. I think this tax reform, have to look at it. I think it's, it's a very radical way of addressing revenue generation in Nigeria, which I think we should all support.
All right. Because I wanted to say, MAN, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, says their argument, or the argument of the association is that any economy that wants to do well is driven by productivity and not taxation.
Yes, productivity, but you cannot have enough funds for productivity if there is, deficit of liquidity. You cannot even be talking about production when your country is, financially insolvent.
Yeah.
So you must find a way of raising funds first before you can now be talking of putting your money into production. For instance, let's say, okay, there are small-scale industry that the government wants to assist. If you don't have the funds, how are you going to assist small-scale industry? How can, if you assist them, they can develop into manufacturing giants?
Yeah, exactly.
So they are only looking at it from their own interest.
Yes.
But broadly, the government needs funds to be able to even assist the manufacturing sector. Because you have to raise funds even to, banks need to give loans so people in the manufacturing sector and all that. You need to improve electricity.
Exactly.
That will serve the interest of, you need to provide roads. You need to provide, a lot of, social services. So if you cannot talk about industrialization, without talking about even an effective tax regime.
All right, gentlemen, a few minutes to wrap up. So let me come to your support. While some have issues with the entirety of the bill, some have issues with VAT, because a group at the moment is urging the National Assembly to revert authority to collect value-added tax exclusively to states, saying that such amendment would make the tax reform bills before the National Assembly fair and equitable in a proper federal system.
That is how it's supposed to be. Because this particular bill, from what I've read, it is where people are consuming that particular product. That is the states that should, enjoy the tax.
Yeah.
You understand? Unlike what we have now, whereby if somebody is outside, you consume, then they now move the money to where the headquarters is. That is what is happening presently. But now we are talking about, okay, fine. In fact, it will even help the state government, just like Adeoye said, to be more creative, so that more investors will come and then they will pay tax. And it will improve your IGR. Because right now what we are doing is some people would go outside, produce, eat whatever they are, and then they move the money to Lagos or to Port Harcourt or to Abuja, wherever they have their headquarters. But now, whether you are in Sokoto, I make a call in Sokoto, that tax goes to Sokoto because that is the state that I am making that call for.
All right, gentlemen.
Because that is where the masters.
We need to go.
You understand?
But of course, this is an ongoing conversation. We'll see what becomes of it in the coming days.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me on Journalist Hangouts on Sunday. Asukwa James, Adewale Adeoye. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your perspectives. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That's all on Journalist Hangouts on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the program at 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11:30. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. We tell the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Every weekday on Business Nigeria, we uncover the secrets of the financial world.
We analyze the stock market, shares, bonds, and the thrilling world of cryptocurrency.
Facts matter. Our team dives deep to separate fact from popular opinion.
We simplify complex government policies as it impacts your everyday life, helping you navigate the ever-changing financial landscape.
Watch Business Nigeria every weekday at 2 p.m. only on TVC News. First with breaking news.
I'm Miriam Lunge. I'm a passionate environment advocate and a published author.
I am the founder of Celebration, a businesswoman, and
a fashion icon. I am a wealth coach and a real estate developer.
I am Amaka Rakwe. I'm a corporate commercial lawyer and an entrepreneur.
Welcome to Warhaka. I am Ramatu Shehu Oivo, an entrepreneur and a business coach.
I am the voice of an average Muslim woman, an Hijabite, and a lawyer.
I am a polymath and a serial entrepreneur.
I am Murayo Afolabi Brand, Managing Director, TVC Entertainment. I'm a media consultant, producer, and broadcaster.
The ladies of your view are made of women from different professions, tribes, cultures, and religion. Join us every Monday to Friday as we share our views on topical and social issues.
TVC News Weekend Lineup. TVC Breakfast Saturday with Kemi Fola Adeyemo and Emmanuel Ajayi. Political Standpoint with Precious Amayo. Newsweek with Mark Otabo. Politics and Sunday with Femi Akonde. Community Forum with Sarah Yeku. Get ready for the biggest stories, fresh perspectives, and burning news discussions that round up the weekend. Only on TVC News.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stuff.
So we've got some of...
Sometimes it's the story that calls.